right, one more time for the film, everybody. That's great. We're going to share this mic. It's going to be great. So, Scott, thank you so much for coming to town. The film was incredible. There was just so much great footage in that. The first thing I wanted to ask, though, obviously people associate.
Can you hear me all right?
Yeah.
No, that's better. No? No? The mic's better?
Yeah.
Mike's good?
What if we talk louder? Can everybody hear me now?
Yep. I can.
Who can't? Who can't? Say it. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Okay, because I think that's be better.
I'll stick with the mic.
Okay.
I mean, I'll lower it. Cool.
We don't have one.
Yeah, we're doing this with you. So people associate Elephant Six with Athens, obviously, but I kind of want to know a little bit more about the scene in Ruston and what the circumstances were like when y'all met there, and what the art scene was like in Ruston at the time before you moved to Athens.
That's too vague. I mean, there was nothing. Yeah, really, there was nothing. When I'm a latecomer, just to let everybody know. I came from Bossier City, Louisiana. I don't know if anybody's ever heard of it. It's next to Shreveport, Louisiana, and I call it the triplets or the Tri-Cities of Louisiana, because there's also Barksdale Air Force Base. So I grew up in Shreveport, Bossier, Barksdale, and I moved there when I was 22, 23, maybe even a little later than that. So, but those guys, Robert, Jeff, Will, John Fernandez, they grew up there, and I somehow ended up kind of sliding in. But we used to have like the house. I mean, that was really, we had this house that we had shows at, and there was always drums, guitars, amps, all the time. Somebody actually stole, if anybody sees a Rickenbacker, blonde Rickenbacker, the one with the curved, I think there's some guys from Minden, Louisiana. They came over one night, it was missing. I think they stole it and pawned it. But so, we always had the shit. So anytime someone came to the house, there'd be someone practicing, there'd be someone playing, whatever. And then if anybody wanted to play band, bands would come over and we'd say, So we always had, music in that big house. And then there was a couple of venues. There was a place called the Funomat, which was a laundromat across the street from our house that had shows, but it was really just like kind of punk rock. You ever seen Salt Lake SLC? What was that movie? SLC Punk? It was kind of like that, except 10 years later. So we didn't really get the punk rock scene until after the fact. So a lot of times, I'm just amazed at how early punk actually hit. Because living in Louisiana, we got it even later than Salt Lake City. But it was, it was kind of like that at Shreveport, and then that kind of bled in. And Ruston, it was a college town, so there was art, and they had a really good art department, art and architecture department. So there was a lot of artists and stuff like that. But really, it was really just 4 or 5 people who were just like, let's do some crazy shit. And because I'm like, they showed a picture of a postcard, and my picture is in there. It says, "Welcome to Ruston," and my picture's in there. And I'm like, man, I was there, I was in Ruston, yeah, but I'm not like, Elephant Six is like those guys, even to me. So it's really weird because they were doing lots of weird recordings that no one's ever heard. That's another weird thing about it, is that there's a lot of shit that no one has ever heard that is just, because it's, anybody bounce boombox? Has anybody ever recorded anything bouncing a boombox? Raise your hand if you bounce a boombox. Yeah. And so I think there was one record. Michelle Schott made a record that was bouncing boombox, and so that's where it started. I mean, because I remember Will. I'm gonna go. I've got diarrhea in the mouth, but I remember Will one time. I was talking to him about like, what is this? And he had this recording. It was Always Red Society. Was the name of the band at the time. And I was just like, man, how do you get it to sound like that? And he said, well, you lay down, you put the drums on, and then you put that cassette in one, and you play that, and you put the microphone, so you're playing this, and you're overdubbing onto, with just the microphone in the boombox. And then you put on the guitar trick. And then you put on the bass. But when you put on the bass, the drums go away because you put too much shit in there, so you gotta redo the drums. So you redo the drums, and then, well, the guitar is gone now, so now I have to redo the guitar. And he would put 30 and 40 layers on this, just not, I can say at the beginning, I don't think it had anything to do with the sound. It was just to get the parts on, and this, yeah, I think I went off on, I'm like those guys on the show that, but yeah.
Yeah, that's great. How many questions do we have in the audience? I want to know that before we keep, okay, we've got plenty, you're doing great. I'm not gonna ask any more questions. Chris has a microphone in the back. Should we just start calling on people? This one, great. I saw your hand first. Yeah, do you wanna?
Oh, and this isn't being recorded, is it? No streaming, no nothing. You record it on cassette tape only.
Right. Straight to tape. So my question is, Jeff Mangum famously recorded "Oh Comely" in one track, or one take, and you famously at the end of it yell "Holy shit,"
Yes.
which is like very quiet. Can you talk about like that recording session and any other holy shit moments you had just like working with these guys?
I mean, that particular moment, I remember actually hitting it, and I was just like, "Holy fuck, that's it!" Because whenever you're recording, you're always is that the tape, and you have to especially on tape. When you're going on to tape, it's so much different than digital, because you can have 700, and I think digital, like one reason that Will is practically insane when it comes to recording now, is you can have 700 tracks and not lose anything. And there's a certain point that tape itself limits you, and it especially 4-track. If you go to 8-track, there's only so many times you can bounce it. So you have a 4-track, and you bounce it. You take 3 tracks and bounce them to 1, and this is if you're not worried about stereo. Then you take that one, and then you have 2 to bounce to 1. Then you have those 2 left over. So you can get like 6 tracks or whatever out of a 4-track. Then you can take that, put it in, and dub it onto 1 track, but then you start losing like a lot of shit. So it limits how many times you can actually push the play button and record button. I forgot what the fucking question was. Oh yeah, that was shit moment. So we were doing it that way, and when you punch in, I remember I told Robert, because he was like, "Oh no, we'll fix it in the mix." The famous thing, "We'll fix it in the mix. I'll punch you in, I'll punch you in, I'll punch you in." I had to, I was like, "No fucking way!" Because especially when you're playing horns, this is ridiculous. I'm gonna go down the rabbit hole. But if you're playing horns, your embouchure is a little different, and I'm not that good. I've told people you can go to any high school, take the first chair horn player, and he can play a fucking trumpet better than me. So I'm really nervous about that, and I was like, I'm not going to dub it. I'm not going to punch in. I'm not going to do it. I need to hit it in 1 take, and I hit it in that take, and that's why I yelled, "Oh shit!" And I remember running through from where the microphone was. I had to run through the main recording room. They had the drum set up, fucking bunch of amps around through the piles of amps that were stacked up in the little hallway into the recording booth, and I yelled, "Oh shit!" As I was running. because I wanted to hear, you know, it's like, did I get it? Did I fucking get it? That kind of, you know, excitement. And there's actually one really funny thing on one of the Gerbils records. As far as punching in, we had this lead up where we went 1, 2, 3, 4, and everything hits. Well, we were attempting to dub in, and someone hit the button earlier. So it went 1, 2, and then someone hit the button and recorded over the 3, 4 that we were trying to save. So we tried to overdub that. So if you listen to the record, I can't remember which song it is, but it's like 1, 2, 3, 4. Like, ah. But we left it in because it's funny.
Great. All right, next question. In the back, right behind you there, Chris. What is your favorite horn to play? That's it.
My favorite horn to play? It's hard. But no, I mean, I think what we call the mellophone, or no, we call it flugelhorn on the record because we didn't know better, but it's actually a mellophone with a French horn mouthpiece because it's like really just like, it's like liquid. I really like that one. That was the one that I played the, what a beautiful, that one. And it's it's fun because it's really mellow.
I'm curious what your favorite horn is to play. I feel like you've got some horn opinions.
I'm a tuba player, so I gotta say
Yeah.
tuba.
But then again, like what song? Like we did this a couple of shows. We played Little Birds, and I had I had a sousaphone on tour, and I didn't have a part, and so I had to kind of. I was like, hey Jeff, can I play the sousaphone? Because Jeremy was playing the accordion, Heather was playing violin while we played it live, and I had this really. I don't know if we have any recordings of it, but it's like boom, 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 boom. So yeah, I guess it depends on the song, like what you want to throw. What's that? It was just a couple of shows at the end of the tour. Yeah.
Great. All right, next question. I saw this hand first.
Yeah, I had a question about, I saw Jeff when he went on tour solo in 2011, I guess it was, and then when you all reunited from Baltimore in 2012. Kind of curious about some of the background about what kind of brought him back out and how you all decided to finally come back together as Mutual Hotel and go on tour when you had done about a year from solo. Can you give me some insight into that kind of process?
I hate to say I have no idea. One day he was like, hey, I'm going to do some solo shows. Do you want to play? And me and Andrew and Laura put together a band called Laura, Andrew, and Scott. And we basically have a couple of Andrew songs, a couple of my songs, and then a bunch of covers as an opening band. And we did a really good job. You should hear some of that shit. That was really good because Andrew and Laura are just amazing. But yeah, I have no idea. I have no idea what he was just like. Okay. And one day he called and said, "We're gonna meet in New York." And so I dragged all the shit up to New York. They had cars and stuff, but I was on the subway carrying baritone, flugelhorn, trombone, trumpet, or bugle. Well, I had a bugle and a trumpet at the time because originally I played a bugle. For drum and bugle corps, you know how they have two valves? Oh yeah. Well, Rick Benjamin, I don't know if you saw him on the thing. He played the on Avery Island, and Jeff asked me to play guitar with Neutral Hotel. He didn't know I played horn, whatever. And when I got up to New York, Robbie Cucciaro was in Music Tapes, had a two-valve bugle that's in G. They're in G. I don't know anything about it. This is what people tell me, but I know, like, so if you ask me, I say, I'm not a musician, but I play one on the stage. That's kind of me. Like, he had this thing. Well, in G, guitar music a lot of times is written in G. So if you play it open, it fits with a guitar that's playing a G chord, and you can play open notes and go and it kind of fits. So I was like, oh, holy shit! And I realized it fit in with one of the songs on Avery Island. So I was like, hey, I can do this. So I sat in Grandma's basement for months while they were playing around in New York, like they do. And and she would come down and go, "You're making too much noise." And so I made these like weird baffles for the trumpet, or the bugle, so I could figure out how to play it. And I was like, "No, guys, I can play it. I can play it." And I was like, and I'm like, "Come on, fuck you." So, because I hadn't played in like 15 years, I played in high school, and then, but Robbie just happened to have this bugle. So for the first, I don't know, until one of the last tours, I would play the 2-valve, and if I needed to change the tuning, I would have to slide the slide out to make a half a step so I could hit some notes, because a 3-valve you can hit a C, or what is, never mind, we're getting too far. A 2-valve doesn't have all the notes, so I would have to slide it out. So in the early days when we were touring, depending on, I think, your altitude, humidity, and all that other stuff, some shows we would play, and I wouldn't be able to slide the slide out enough to flatten the tune to get it in tune. I'm having a conversation with him too much. Are you guys understanding?
Yeah.
So I'm sliding the thing out, but it wouldn't be in tune. So I remember there was a show in Chico or something like that, and it was just horrendous, horrible. And it's just like, man, you suck. And I'm like, I don't know. I'm looking at the horn. I remember standing on stage looking at the horn because it was a quarter of a step sharp. If it was a half a step, I could do something. But it was a quarter. And Jeff is looking at me like, doing the show, and I'm like staring at this horn, like, I can't pull it out anymore. But that was all we had. So, anyway, I'm sorry if I'm going off too much.
Oh, great. Thorough answers. You've got the mic already, all right.
Perfect. Okay. So, speaking of old bandmates, I wonder what your favorite memory with Will Westbrook is.
I think as far as I've got many amazing memories, but my favorite that involves like actually playing. If you want to say that, we played this gig at the bottom of the hill in San Francisco. You go down south, I think it's south, down at the bottom of the hill, there's a bar called the Bottom of the Hill. And he had set up a 6-speaker system around the bar so that he had a couple of faders that he could fade his guitar solos so that they would come from the back of this, of the thing. And just there's a really great picture of him. I think it was in the documentary, and it's a picture of him with his guitar, and he's like standing like this, and the flash is on him, and that was the show. But he just had these crazy like setups, and his big thing was quad sound, and then I think that show he actually had 6 different speakers and 2 different faders so that he could fade his stuff, and he was trying to swirl it around people while we were playing. Yeah, he was amazing.
All right. Anyone else? Great. Right in front of you there.
When you were making the record, I'm thinking of in the airplane over the sea, when you were making that record, did you sort of know that you had lightning in a bottle or something? I mean, could you tell as you were making it what this was, or was it like kind of everything else?
I think I knew we liked it, but whether anybody else liked it or not, I mean, that's, there's so much chance in that. As they say, the public or whatever is a fickle beast. You don't know what anyone's going to like or whatever. But I do remember yelling "oh shit" at the end of when I hit when I played the shit that I wanted to play, and I yelled "oh shit" and ran through the studio. So, you know, whether anybody else, you never know, because there's like there's a certain palette that people have, and I hope that this film introduces people to things that they never thought about. I was standing back there, and Julian, it was introducing something about Julian, and there was a point where one of his recordings has this real wash of weird, like, and I can't remember which one it was at the time. And then his vocals come, oh yeah, it's like, this weird guitar going in the back, and I was in the backyard playing in the mud. I was in the backyard playing in the mud. But the vocals are super hot and really loud, and he's whispering them, and there's all this heavy, weird shit going in the back. They don't blend at all. They don't sound. It doesn't sound like it's even in the same universe. But when it sounds like you're standing there in someone's room while someone's playing something here, and someone's whispering in your ear, and that texture, that sound. I hope that this, you know, people will go, oh, it's not about the beat. Sometimes it is. You know, sometimes you want the beat. Sometimes you want the, you know, how loud something is, how bassy something is, how something punches you. But especially with music tapes, and a lot of the early, the Elephant Six stuff, if you listen to Will Hart stuff, you listen to some of the Apple's, like, guitar solos and stuff just come out of the weirdest places. Bill stuff, Jeff stuff, like it's not just, oh yeah, here's a song. It's this weird texture that you can see when you're listening to it. Like I was back there, and when that came in, I actually went, yeah, like, because I kind of forgot about it, even though I've seen it. I saw this movie a couple months ago, but it's that I was in the backyard playing in the mud. It's going the whole time behind it, and it just makes these layers, like cutting out cardboard and sticking. And he does that with his art too. He has a bunch of like pop-ups in his art, and so it's like, I don't know if that answers. I can't even remember the question.
No, it totally does. It was like, did you know how special all this was while you were doing it? It sounds like, yeah, there were times when it was like magic.
But there's so many times, like, I wish that I could just remember all of the things and put it on like a brain scan, and you can put it in your brain for just a second and go, what? Like, I got to tour with fucking Nutrimilk Hotel, and I'm kind of an outsider. I tell you, really, I'm not a great musician. I play one on stage, and they tell me what to play. Like I had tuners clipped on all of my instruments because I needed to make sure that when I hit an A, and I wasn't just playing. I was like, okay, I'm looking at that thing, and if that line is right there, I had to do that because I'm not a musician that way. But I could stand there next to Jeremy Barnes, who's the greatest drummer. He's pounding this. Like, one of the best shots in this movie was Jeremy Barnes at M. Voda, and it's just like the whole thing's quiet, and steam is just coming off. I don't know if you remember that picture, but seeing that, but then seeing Julian and music tapes, where the metronome. We built that thing. And we dragged it around the country because, and at first we had it cranked. We had a crank on it so that you could, and it had gears in there that were 12. There was 12 spots, so you could make it go 3/4 time. You could do 4/4 time. You could do 8, or any combination of those 6/8. And then different pounding things on the inside. So we dragged that around, but. I remember I was talking about it earlier in Dallas one time. we were dragging around a pallet with a sheet of brass expanded metal on the top of it with contact mics on it. And he would jump up and down while we were playing, and that was the rhythm. And then he's, I wish that I could just take my fucking brain and give it to anybody to just be able to watch these fucking people. Like, I toured with Hawk and a Hacksaw. Jeremy Barnes, he was a solo one-man band playing accordion. He had an array of like horns, like bicycle horns. I remember one time going to Walmart because he didn't have all the bicycle horns. And so he had these bicycle horns, he had a stick stuck to his head, and he had a baseball cap with a stick in it, and he's playing accordion, so it was a one-man band, but it wasn't hokey, it was just like, what is this phenomenon, but it happened so many times, so I can say yes, that it was an amazing thing, but if you listen to Hooray for Tuesday, that song, it's like, it's just that moment. It's hard to capture. So I don't know if that answers the question, but it happened. So I'm a witness. I'm a witness to all of this crazy shit that these people were doing. I tried to keep up, but no, I'm just like, holy fuck,
Yeah, it sounds like so much of the magic was
Dixie
almost
Blood
accidental.
mustache. I walk in Dixie Blood mustache, and they have a fucking brain made out of gauze with all these lights and all this other stuff, and they're playing this, and it's like, oh, today we're doing bubbles and water and stuff like that. So they played a show at this place in Athens, and they had bathtubs set up all around the stage with all these microphones on it, and they were blowing water in the bowls, and they were pouring water and doing all this stuff. One time, we were playing out at Olivia Tremor Control was playing outdoor show. A lot of it's live. That's what sucks about it, because so much wasn't captured. Olivia Tremor was playing outside on this little grassy area behind the Grit in Athens, and they were doing this sort of weird waking up in the morning sort of collage, and it had some bird sounds and chirping and like the toaster and scraping bread and all that shit. But when they turned on the birds, all of these birds flew out of this hole or a tree and just started swirling around. So they're playing this show in the middle of the afternoon, and these birds just are just like swirling around while they're playing and they're making the bird sounds, and then the birds came. Just there's so many moments like that are just fucking mind-blowing. So yeah, but when we did there was a moment they said we had these potlucks. There's a potluck at my house, and we're like, hey, we're gonna play the records, guys. You want to see it? And I remember pushing the button and standing there, and people going. And then 28 minutes or however long the record is, pretty short record. 40 minutes later, everyone's like, what the fuck was that? And then that's when I was like, yeah. But while we're recording, probably we're just like, oh yeah, that's good, that's great. But that when we did it potluck, we were like, oh holy shit, what happened?
When you listened at the potluck, was it a completed record, or were they still talking about putting stuff
it was
on?
a CD. It was right before
We're done
the
with
release.
this. Cool. Chris, so how are we doing on time?
4 minutes.
Okay, let's do one more quick question. If anyone has a quick question, yes.
I can just shout, I'm pretty loud.
Okay, yeah, that works.
I guess, I feel like it's a rare piece of art that makes you who you become. And you and your weird friends in Ruston and Athens, you did that for my friends 10 years later in a little college in upstate New York. I saw you in 2008 at the Knitting Factory, and before, the screening, you were telling me that was the last time you guys smashed up the stage. And I want to hear you talk about more times you guys smashed up the stage.
I think the most memorable one for me, I'll just leave it at one, because it was funny as hell. The most memorable, we were playing a place called, oh holy shit, Shepherd's Bush, or or something like that in England. And after what happened was we had to load out, and we were kind of sort of tired, and we did, we played the show. We didn't actually smash up the stage too much. But then Jeremy was like, it was all rented gear, and we were tired, but he like picked up his floor tom and threw it towards the back of the stage because that's where the loading bay was. And so he was throwing his shit, and we're, Jeff and Julian were smashing other stuff, but it was like, what the fuck, man? Why did you start doing that? And he was like, the loading bay was right there, and I was just throwing the stuff that direction. Get off my back, man! But the guy who ran the venue said, smashing the stage is so old school, or so it's like he made some really derogatory, like, oh, that's a thing of the past, man. That's like old punk. We don't do that in the UK anymore. Yeah.
Awesome, great story to end on. Thank you so much, Scott Spillane, for your time today. This has been really great.
Thank you everybody for coming out.